lot of reporting on how Chuck Schumer is planning on weathering the storm now that enraged people all over the country are demanding that he step down from leadership. And it seems as though part of that strategy is having other Democrats like Bernie Sanders go on TV and defend keeping him as leader. Shows you how out of touch they are with their voters, because everybody who's paid attention to the shutdown is fucking enraged, because it wasn't just a capitulation and a caving. No, people understand that it was not just a bailout of Trump, but a massive W to him and the Republicans. There's reporting that says that people in his administration are thrilled. Reporting that they were all, including Trump, getting stressed out about it, but that the White House was confident that they'd be able to wait out the Democrats. And they were right. Democrats and their allies in the media have really been trying to downplay what a fucking disaster this has been, and refusing to call for Chuck Schumer to step down as leader. Here's Bernie Sanders doing just that.
I have to ask you if you support Senator Schumer retaining his leadership role, if you think this kind of a primary campaign is right-minded.
Look, what you got right now, Chuck Schumer is part of the establishment. And I'm sorry to say that many people in the Democratic caucus are part of it. I would say we have 8 or 9 out of 47 people who I would consider to be progressives. So you can argue, and I can make the case that Chuck Schumer has done a lot of bad things. But I think getting rid of him, who's going to replace him? Who's going to replace him? The issue right now is doing primaries, getting people involved in the political process. We're going to create a government and an economy that...
See, this is why no one is taking you guys seriously. And yes, that would include Bernie Sanders. So you acknowledge Chuck Schumer's a part of the establishment, and he's been an epic failure as a leader, and that's why we should keep him? Considering that I used to be a Bernie bro, I love Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was the person who got me into politics, electoral politics, in the first place. I have heard him say some variation of that message a million times. The message of, we need to have people that are willing to take on the establishment, who have the guts to take on the corporations and the oligarchs and the ruling class, that aren't afraid to fight to create a government that works for all working people and not billionaires. Okay. I actually normally don't mind when people are really repetitive, because repetition is how shit ends up sinking into people a lot. Trump is very good at that. No, my problem is if you say that for years and then you don't back it up with action, because that's exactly what Bernie Sanders is doing right there. He's repeating his famous, oh, we have to have somebody who's going to take on the establishment, while he's defending Chuck Schumer. How are you supposed to do primaries and take on the establishment when Chuck Schumer, as the leader, is using the DSCC, the official arm of the Senate Democrats, that they decided that they were going to run against Graham Plattner because they got upset at the idea of a progressive running? This was before any of the controversies came out about him, so don't even try to use that as an excuse. The fact of the matter is, Chuck Schumer immediately tried to undermine a progressive running in a primary by using the official arm of the Democratic Party, their power, their resources, to put his finger on the scale of a primary again. You would think that Bernie Sanders would have learned that lesson, considering they did it to him. But honestly, this is another reason why I said that Bernie Sanders lost, is that even though he had a great message, even though he was right about so many things, at the end of the day, he was unwilling. He didn't have it in him to actually take on the establishment he's always telling other people to take on. Yes, I remember the 2020 primary, in which he had a couple opportunities to take Joe Biden out, and he chose not to take them. He kept saying, Joe's my friend. That, coupled with the fact that he seemed totally unprepared and unwilling to take on the media, when he knew, he had to have known, because it happened in 2016, that the media was going to lie and smear him nonstop. But he didn't. So why do you keep telling everybody that they need to take on the establishment when you yourself are unwilling to do so? Democrats, including Bernie Sanders, who I know is an independent but caucuses with the Democrats, are unwilling themselves to call out the leadership in the Democratic Party. How are you sitting here with a straight face telling people that they need to stand up to the establishment as you defend the failure of Chuck Schumer's so-called leadership? This is only the latest in a string of failures by Chuck Schumer. As I mentioned earlier, he already came out trying to fuck around and meddle in Maine's primary by deciding that he was going to run someone that is close to 80 as a senator to challenge Susan Collins in Maine. Talk about no fucking political instincts. Then you had what he did to Zohran Mamdani. Unforgivable. He's not only the leader of the Senate, he's also the senior senator from New York. So Zohran Mamdani is running for mayor of New York City, and this bitch won't endorse him. This bitch wouldn't even say he voted for him. Guys, this is the second shutdown that Chuck Schumer has caved on. That's just a handful of shit that Chuck Schumer has done in the last few months that is unacceptable. What everybody needs to understand, aside from the fact that Chuck Schumer needs to go, is that none of them are serious, including Bernie Sanders, about having any actual change if they are defending Chuck Schumer, as he is. If they are saying that there shouldn't be an immediate change in leadership, then you are defending the status quo quite literally. Because again, they can blame it on those 8 Democrats all they want, but everybody knows Chuck Schumer was behind it, and everybody knows that all the other Democrats low-key supported it because they could have spoken out against it when it leaked, and they chose not to. Stop listening to what Democratic politicians say to you and watch what they do. I don't give a fuck how progressive any of them sound. If they're defending Chuck Schumer, or Hakeem Jeffries for that matter, to stay in leadership positions, unserious about any kind of change, unserious about taking on the establishment. The Democrats love to reward failure. Well, who's gonna replace him? I don't know, have a fucking vote. Do not let Chuck Schumer slink out of this, and don't let any of them tell you that it's acceptable that he stay.